1. Memories of the past. So it began with a few illegitimate transactions. Those questionable discourse between the scales and the most vile of the underworld. It was not for their own that they feared, for the death of a hero was more recognized than that of 1,000 cowards. And so, as time passed by, and one deal after another was stricken with devils, each to make humanity a bit more inhabitable, so did those of our bloodline, the only ones able to make such deals, souls for wishes, did we one by one fade into a death of a better world. When finally it had seemed that the world's favor had turned from that of grimace and malice, greed and thirst, hunger and power, to a more favorable life where pain had become a rarity, even amongst the most misfortunate people, was when they learned they were not the scales and misunderstood what we had done, of the sacrifices we had made to save them from the same heartache of living, to make hell a more favorable place as it should be, a place worse than here. They did not understand. The thirst for power came back in their eyes as they watered and drooled first to teach them of our magic, of our power, of our deals with devils, of power they thirsted in what came to be known as the epoch of utopia, until chaos was let out, or rather, released. April 16th, 1777 was our Ragnarok. On this day the world saw such threats, and threats saw things that must be eliminated. They saw one man's power as too much for one man to have, or so they claimed. They lied. They were not contending that one had as much power as we. They were jealous that it was not they who had it. There were the 7 sins we had been warned about, and they had committed them all. They were the devils we had waited for in earlier generations to come and take us away, to escort us into the next life. But this had been 300 years ago, and now life was of value to us, and sacrifices were only made if necessary. The night of this day they came, the humans, a pathetic excuse for a species only underestimated. Not its intelligence, they were stupid. Not its power, they were weak. And not its people, they were less intelligent. We underestimated something most wouldn't overlook, but somehow we did. We underestimated their numbers. Dwar Chasm was the place that every scale, with few exceptions, was born. It was the place where almost all scales spent their whole lives with their own people, living to a ripe old age and then sacrificing themselves for the good of the entire world. Time was a non-existent factor in Dwar Chasm. It wasn't some form of measurement like they use it now. It wasn't something to be worried about. Once you had past the age of 20, time was. And so it was in this way that their naivety led to their annihilation. On this night, before the moon had passed overhead, was the first house set afire. In our beds we lay, unaware of the plague of humans, worse than the plague of death that was amidst us. It was not until the first screams were heard and the first few houses burned that we realized this was the end. A warrior does not give up, and neither do we. They had us surrounded in our small village on all sides, over 1,000 of them, and a mere 200 plus of us. My mother and father were the wisest of many of the villagers, because they had the sense not to run. The humans would kill the scales before the fire would, and as a result I lived. He put me under a door propped up against the wall, and on top of that, he threw layers and layers of wood. The fire swept toward us, and my weak mother helped with anything she could manage to get a hold of. The fire came storming through the village, but not fast enough, as the humans waited and watched. The whites of their eyes twinkled like stars against the background sky. From the ravine they brought buckets of water, scurrying to wet the wood as fast as they could. I watched with open eyes, knowing that this would be the last I saw of my parents. They made 10 trips or so, carrying small buckets of water, while the rest of the villagers ran around like scared mice. On the last trip they breathed heavy, exhausted from the running, and that was when the house caved in. The last few words they told me: live and don't become like them, bloodthirsty. Too bad I didn't listen. Stay tuned for more.